All right, so this one she has a bad feeling about.
She had a bad feeling about it, and she did tell me not to do it, although on other occasions she said, yeah, well, maybe you should. But of course that came back to haunt me.
Okay.
I told you not to do that.
Right, that's true.
Actually, it still does.
It still does. She still tells you.
I told you not to do that.
You have a remarkable sense of humor about this, Simon. All right, so it comes down...
What else can you do?
That's true.
At the stage.
All right, it comes down to the day, and you decide to go for it.
Yeah.
What is happening on the day? What is going on?
Things are bad. So we're on plan M, and it's not a good one.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, M.
We've been through a lot of plans. We know we're blown all over the place. We know a lot of people are, far too many people know what we're doing. We've spent a year messing around the build-up.
Which was way too long. Things will get leaked in a year.
Yeah, absolutely. And we also knew that the South African government knew, and South African intelligence knew, and we knew that Spanish intelligence knew because they were part of it.
They wanted it to happen.
They were behind it. I
Okay.
mean, not literally like, here's some money, go and do it, but they were privy. What was the president of Spain called? Can't remember. The king. I mean, they definitely all knew what was happening.
Okay.
Spanish, Portuguese knew. I think the Americans knew. I think the Americans had told Eli Khalil way before I was recruited, Eli, if you do this right, we'll give you a fair win, but this conversation never happened. We're not going to back you. We're not having this meeting. But if you get it right, we'll give you a fair wind.
Which means we'll leave you alone.
Event.
We'll leave you alone.
Yeah, we won't begin you. Because Eli Khalil was far too experienced, far too well known to the Americans and the French intelligence services to think that he could do something like this, and nobody knew.
Okay.
And it was all going to be okay.
All right.
He was consummate operator.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. So it's plan M on the day. Far too many people know. It's leaked. You've changed the plan a bunch of times.
We're short of money now. We're really short of money. We don't have the resources.
Which means what? You don't have the fourth helicopter you were talking about. You don't have all the backup plans.
Well, in this case, I bought the Boeing, the one that's still sitting at Harare International.
Still sitting there.
Same place.
Okay. If I fly in, I can see Simon Mann's plane.
I'm just waiting for the parking tickets to arrive. And we had some very good plans as to how to do this, but we never had the money or the time to do those plans. So now we're on a plan which is basically, oh, for God's sake, okay, let's just go to Harare, collect the weapons, and fly to Malibu, and let's hope it's going to work.
It's like a seventh grader plan.
We're just gonna go for it.
Just kick in the front door.
Yeah.
It's so obvious.
Yeah.
It's just going to brute force it in. And you have no time
But
left.
remember, all the time, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking it's the palace coup.
Right. Okay.
So, for example, and this is something that nobody has actually really grilled me about on all the many, many interrogations, is it, where were the weapons and the ammunition going on the aeroplane? Into the hold. So when you landed at Malibu, you're all in the passenger part, and the weapons and ammunition are in the hold. Yep. Have you test fired the weapons? Checked them? No. So either you are all raving mad, or the palace coup is the real story.
Right. Because nothing else would make sense.
Nothing makes no sense whatsoever.
Okay. And the thing you're alluding to is there was never going to be a palace coup, realistically.
There was going to be one.
There was.
There
Okay.
absolutely was going to be one, because if there wasn't that part of the plan, then what we were doing was madness.
Right. Okay. Understood. All right, so you bought the Boeing plane.
Yeah.
It's in Harare.
In a week.
Why do you have to go to Zimbabwe to make this happen? You can't fly to South Africa because it's too crazy.
No, we go to Harare to collect the weapons and ammunition.
Right, okay.
That's what we're doing in Harare.
Okay. And you feel comfortable going to Zimbabwe normally, or is it just a little risky?
Well, no, I'd only been there to do that.
Okay.
So I'd been there 4 times with Nick Dutoy. We're dealing with Zimbabwe Defence Industries, ZDI, which the government owned. We're meeting in the main boardroom, business cards across the table.
You're buying weapons.
Yes.
This should be simple. You've done this a million times before.
Well, actually, yeah, we had done.
Okay.
And Nick had done a lot of work with ZDI.
Okay. And what happens?
Well, we go through the whole procedure. Everything seems to be fine. We get the Boeing comes in. The guys are on board. We get taken to the hangar where there is supposedly a truck with all our kit on it, and weapons and ammunition.
And you got 60 South African mercenaries on board.
Well, they're sitting in the plane.
In the plane.
So myself and 2 guys
Okay.
go to check the ammo.
And the plan was to go directly from there to Equatorial Guinea and
We're
do
going to
it
fly in one go.
in one go. Okay.
Which may mean turning one engine off. But it's a 727 and it can easily fly. It's got 3 engines. It can easily fly on 2.
Why do you turn one engine off?
Save fuel.
Save fuel. Okay, because it's a long trip.
Yeah. It's quite extreme range.
Okay.
And the weather is bad. What if we have to divert for weather?
Okay.
It's quite complicated, these things.
It's like an 8-hour flight or more. 6 hours.
No, it wasn't 8 hours.
Okay.
No. I think it was like 5
All right.
hours. I can't remember exactly. Anyway, we get onto the truck to inspect the arms and ammunition and look round and something's wrong. And then I look up and we're surrounded by 20 people in black overalls with MP5s. Get down off the truck, you're under arrest. And we're in prison.
The guys on the plane off.
They're taken off after a couple of hours.
And they can't fight.
No.
It's
They've
bad.
got no weapon.
Got no weapons anyways. Okay. And how are you feeling at this point?
Not good.
But you didn't know it was necessarily really bad.
I suspected it was.
Okay. And what was happening?
I don't know. For sure.
Okay.
But I've got some pretty good information now as to what was happening.
Okay.
And that basically says that President Zuma of South Africa, no, Mbeki, sorry, not Zuma, Mbeki, the then president of South Africa, knew about the operation and had given it his blessing to go ahead up until 2 hours before our arrest. 2 hours. And I have that information from a very, very, very good source.
Why did he change his mind?
Again, I have, information which I don't know is true. But to the best of my knowledge, I've talked to lots of different people. The Americans told the Angolans to tell the South Africans, to tell the Zimbabweans to arrest us. Now, you say, why would anyone go down a chain like that? The Americans want to distance themselves as far away from this as they can. So they don't tell the South Africans directly. They tell their good friends in Luanda, tell the South Africans. Tell the South Africans that if they don't blow the whistle on this and stop this, their fingerprints are all over it. And they're going to get the blame. So tell Zimbabwe to arrest them, which they did. Now you may say, wait a minute, I thought you said that you think there was a combination on the Beltway with Eli Khalil and somebody saying, listen, Eli, this lunch never happened, but we'll back you. We'll be calm, we'll be cool if you do this and you do it right. So why would they then be the people who torpedo it? And in my mind's eye, I have this meeting room in Langley, And some guys sort of sitting there say, this is a fuck up. You know? This operation is going to hell in a handbasket. And everyone's saying, oh yeah, well, sorry sir, it has got a bit out of hand, hasn't it? And this is getting very dangerous because it looks as if our fingerprints are on it. And I'll come back to that in a minute, because there's a couple of terrible mistakes I made. Okay. And then, and in my mind, it's always a young lady, says, excuse me, sir, but surely there's a way that we can actually turn this all around and get into a win-win. What do you mean a win-win? You can see that thing. And she says, well, if we stop it, and we can then go to the president of Equatorial Guinea, because what was our objective in the first place? Our objective in the first place was to get a better rule of law and a better government in Equatorial Guinea. That's why we set out on this whole thing in the first place, to replace this guy. So why don't we turn it around the other way and say to the guy, we've saved your ass this time, but we can't do it again. And you have got to mend your ways. Because you're doing a whole load of things that are wrong, and we know all about them, you've got to sort it out. And then we get what we wanted in the first place. That's a good idea. Make it so. And then you go on to the next, fuck up somewhere else. I can just, this is my imagination, obviously going completely out of control, but something like that. Because it does make sense. Because I know now that everything changed in Equatorial Guinea when the coup failed. That is the date that everyone I talk to in Equatorial Guinea tell me everything changed. That suddenly they started to put money into the schools, the hospitals, roads. They really started to work hard to make things better.